right, if you've ever done anything like being on a diet where you're trying not to eat certain things, but then you messed up and did eat the thing that you were trying not to, and the effect was that you allowed yourself to then eat a lot more of the things you were trying not to, saying it's okay, I'll start over again on Monday, you're probably going to find some value in this video. One thing you might be doing is giving in to the evil influence of something called the Abstinence Violation Effect, or AVE. What you want to be doing instead is something that I call compartmentalizing, which I will be showing you how to do in this video. What's up, everyone? This is Justin Gordon. I'm in private practice as a licensed marriage and family therapist, which is a very specific type of mental health therapist. I'm going to be doing a series of videos on some healthy thinking habits that I think will be really pretty easy to adopt, even if you're not looking to make any major changes in your life at this point. And then I'll give you some examples of how you can engage in this habit instead. In this particular video, I'll explain what the abstinence violation effect is, and then explain how you can compartmentalize instead. All right, so if you ever had a goal and then you slightly missed that goal, you slightly messed up on it, and the effect was you then allowed yourself to majorly mess up on it, or you gave up on that goal for a few days or forever, there's a good chance that the abstinence violation effect was wreaking havoc on you. This is a psychological game that we play with ourselves in some of those critical moments. Now, from the research that I've done, the abstinence violation effect was first coined back in the mid-'80s, and it was used with people who were addicted to substances that they were trying not to use. In my experience with people, I found that it's more commonly applied to a lot of different areas of life, such as nutrition, exercise, work performance, school performance, use of your time. Food is the most common one that I see, and I may or may not have done this myself involving food, so I tend to use that one as the biggest example. With food, a lot of times that looks like you are trying to eat healthier and you mess up a little bit by, say, having a chocolate chip cookie. And the effect then is you feel like, oh, well, I broke my diet, I messed up, I might as well go big or go home. I might as well, say, eat the rest of the cookies in that box. And then after I've had that box of cookies, I might as well eat some junk food the rest of the day that I normally don't allow myself to have, but since I broke my diet, I'm going to anyway. And I might as well enjoy the weekend since I'm there, and I'll start over again on Monday. With exercise, that might look like, oh, I missed a day at the gym, so I might as well take the rest of the week off, and with that, I'll start over again on Monday as well. Or if you were trying to get a lot of things crossed off of your to-do list in a day, but you realized there was one or two things you couldn't get done, so then you just gave up and sat on the couch and got on YouTube or Netflix. Or if you were trying to talk nicer to your spouse and kids, but then you ended up yelling at one of them, so you gave up entirely. With any of these other aspects of life, it might look like just trying to do better in a certain way in that aspect, and then you fall somewhat short of your goal. So then you sort of just give up because it's frustrating, and what's the use, and any number of games we play with ourselves. All right, as I said, the abstinence violation effect was coined by people who were working in substance abuse. So what they found was people, when they were, say, trying not to drink alcohol anymore because they had problems with alcoholism, when they would mess up and have one drink, a lot of times they would get heavily involved in the shame cycle, and then that would lead to having a lot more drinks, lead to a weekend bender. They would lose a week or two sometimes. I've seen even up to a decade. One small drink, yeah, you broke your goal, but really just a minor lapse, relatively. Now, letting that turn into a weekend or a week or a month or years, that's a full-on relapse. That's a different story. So that's one of the biggest take-homes from this video, is there's a difference between a lapse and a relapse. Eating one chocolate chip cookie, not a big deal. It's a lapse. You can get back on the horse. Eating the rest of the cookies in that box, yeah, you're gonna feel that. That's more of a relapse. While you can still come back from that one, a little bit harder. So what they found with substance use was people would get heavily involved in the shame cycle. And with that shame was something pretty terrible that we do to ourselves, a pretty awful game we play with ourselves in our heads, where we start to apply a whole lot of meaning to that one event, a whole lot of meaning to taking that one drink, which I'll explain in more detail a little bit later on. And what I mean by that is, say I take that drink, Yes, I've broken my abstinence. That's one thing. If I'm feeling a lot of shame, I might start to internalize that event, meaning it's not about taking a drink, it's about I am this kind of person. I'm the kind of person who does this or doesn't do this. I'm the kind of person who couldn't have that drink. I'm the kind of person who has no self control. I might be incompetent. I might be worthless. I'll never be able to beat this. Rather than letting it be just about that one drink, I let it be about me, myself. I internalize it. All right, so the message goes from a behavior that I did to my identity. For simplicity's sake, it makes sense to call these negative self beliefs. These wreak havoc. This is where the abstinence violation really starts to dig into us. I lie to myself and tell myself it wasn't about that one drink. It was about me as a person, my character, my willpower, my strength, my integrity, my determination. And a lot of times, what happens next is you're feeling a lot of shame, and naturally, you start to reach for something that's going to make you feel better, going to drown out that shame. And for people who are trying not to drink, well, naturally, that was alcohol. That was the second drink, and then the third drink, and then the fourth drink. And then it's turned into a major relapse. Again, we've taken a lapse and we've turned it into a relapse, which are two different things. Now, at this point, let me just say this is completely normal. This is very common. We all do it. We've all done it. So, by explaining these things, I'm not saying people are doing anything wrong. This is a common thing that we all do with whatever our particular goal might be. Again, I use food because it's one of the most common ones. So with food, just like with alcohol, that might mean you're trying not to eat processed sugar, right? So say you eat that one chocolate chip cookie, that's a lapse. But then you start to feel bad about yourself. You start lying to yourself, saying, I'm the kind of person who can't turn away a cookie. I'll never eat better. I'll always do this. This is about me as a person. I'm internalizing it. You start to throw yourself down the shame cycle. And naturally, in order to make yourself feel better, you go for, say, the rest of the cookies in the box. Again, that's the abstinence violation effect wreaking havoc on us. Now, to branch away from the shame cycle, there doesn't even have to be shame involved. There can be any kind of game that we play with ourselves. So there's the go big or go home theory. So like if you're trying not to eat sugar, obviously sugar tastes good. You miss it when you don't eat it. So if you break your diet, then we decide, okay, might as well. I've got this window of opportunity when I can eat these things I'm trying not to. I'm going to indulge. I'm going to enjoy. That one cookie turns into the box. It turns into the rest of the day, turns into a whole weekend. And then you've done a lot more damage than that original chocolate chip cookie, which really wasn't that big of a deal. Okay. So one cookie really not going to make much of a difference. Missing one workout really not going to make a huge difference. The main damage isn't really physical. The worst risk is actually psychological. It's in the games that we start to play with ourselves. Unfortunately, with the abstinence violation effect, a lot of times comes its ugly little cousins. We tend to call these things thinking errors. They include justification, rationalization, overgeneralizing, and my personal little favorite, all or nothing thinking. Those can be the subject of a whole other video. What I do like to spend time on, which leads me into what we're going to do about the abstinence violation effect, is the all or nothing thinking. All right, so in between eating that first chocolate chip cookie and the rest of the box, there's a small space in which a lot of things happen. What we're trying to do is change up what can happen and has been happening to what we want to happen instead. Take out the abstinence violation effect and add in compartmentalizing instead. So to compartmentalize, what we have to do is stop thinking in terms of all or nothing or black or white. Everything either fits into one category or the other. We have to stop thinking in terms of just one or two compartments and start thinking in terms of many compartments, which is usually a lot more accurate. This is compartmentalizing. Now, to illustrate this principle, I think of tanker trailers being hauled behind semis. So in a previous life, I was a truck driver driving semis, hauling oil and water in the Bakken oil fields up in North Dakota. We would be hauling insane amounts of liquid, and that posed its own dangers. That liquid, when taken as a whole, carries a lot of momentum. So if you try to stop too fast or start too fast, it creates something called surge, which is where all the liquid in the tank goes in one direction, and it can throw your truck off. I've had it slide me several feet forward when I was trying to stop. Pretty dangerous thing. So what they did was they split up the tankers by putting in ballasts and splitting off the liquid into different compartments. They were compartmentalizing, separating it out. That way what happens is if you have to stop, you don't have the combined weight of everything coming from all the way from the back of the tanker all the way to the front, which can carry a lot of momentum by the time it hits the front of the trailer. Instead, most of the water in there is only traveling a short distance, so it carries some weight, but not the same weight that all of the liquid all the way from the back would carry all the way to the front and become dangerous. In order to break free of the abstinence violation effect and break out of all or nothing thinking, we have to do this same thing in our life. So to use the cookie example, all or nothing thinking would be eating cookie matter or not eating cookie matter. Doesn't matter if it's one cookie or 30. It's cookie matter or it's not cookie matter. In reality, there's a lot of different compartments between one cookie and 30 cookies. There's one cookie, two cookies, three cookies, you get me? Or realistically, you can break it down further. There's taking one bite of that cookie and calling it good. This is a more realistic way of thinking. It's a less dangerous way of thinking. That way you don't have the combined weight of the whole box of chocolate chip cookies at you. You just ate one cookie, which is not a huge deal. It's a lapse, not a relapse, and you start over again right then. Not the following Monday after you've indulged quite a bit and made a lot more work for yourself in a full-on relapse. You do a lot more damage with 30 chocolate chip cookies than you do with one chocolate chip cookie, realistically. Just like the danger of the whole tanker of water coming at me was a lot greater than, say, each individual compartment. So that's compartmentalizing in a nutshell. Try not to allow yourself to start thinking in terms of black or white, all or nothing, only two compartments. Either I eat a lot of cookie matter or I eat no cookie matter. Most of life is actually more in the gray area in between black and white. There are usually a lot more compartments. So if you've broken a goal a little bit, remember there's a difference between breaking a goal a little bit and breaking a goal a lot. It's easier to come back from breaking a goal a little bit than it is to come back from breaking a goal a lot. Now, my challenge to you is this. The beauty of the abstinence violation effect is you don't have to gear up to do it. You don't have to be in a great, healthy place or psych yourself up to do it. Just look for small examples of when you can start to shave off some of that black or white thinking, shave off some of the abstinence violation effect, and start to compartmentalize. If you break a goal, start over right then. Remind yourself it's just a small lapse. It's not a huge relapse. Definitely start to give yourself some of these psychological victories and start little by little to start to engage this healthy thinking habit and change the way you think somewhat.